and good afternoon. Welcome to another session of In Dialogue Foundation's Certificate Course in Dialogue Studies 2022-23. Today's interactive session is with Dr. Kerim Balci, who will speak on the topic, The Missing Dimension of Society 5.0 Dialogue. Mr. Kerim Balci is a Turkish writer in exile. He is a journalist, academic, and human rights activist. An aspiring lawyer, he is currently pursuing his LLM from Leeds Law School and works at London Advocacy as Chief Communications Officer. In the past, he was the editor-in-chief of Turkish Review, a bi-monthly journal. Mr. Balci was a frequent columnist in today's Zaman and Zaman dailies before they were closed down by the Turkish government. Balci is a Middle East and radicalism expert and has completed his PhD from Durham University of the UK on Bakhtinian approach to interpretation of Muslim holy texts. He is a member of the Fabian Society IPG Steering Committee. He regularly contributes to Center for Hizmet Studies. To the participants, please keep your cameras on and try and make the session as interactive as possible by asking questions and sharing comments. Mr. Balci is open to any clarifications that you might want, even during the session. So please keep that in mind. Dr. Balci, as you know, you have up to 2 hours for the session. You may leave as much time for interaction as you like, and your session will go on for 45 minutes, just like you mentioned. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Alia. Good afternoon, I assume there. Today I'm going to be speaking about particularly Japanese project, which is becoming there by every day a global project for giving meaning to the future of humanity. You may have heard already concepts like Made in China 2025 or Industrial Revolution 4.0 and so on. Starting from 2016 onwards, Japan developed the concept Society 5.0. And by last year, it was already on the agenda of United Nations Development Agency. So it is becoming a global attraction by means of referring to the future of humanity. We are already referring to the era that we are living in as the knowledge society, but what comes after the knowledge society when you have a need to name the future, Society 5.0 or super smart society are the top running two alternatives. Both of them have been created by Japanese intellectuals. Today, I'm going to introduce you Society 5.0 as a Japanese and everyday globalizing concept, but then I will present you the criticism against Society 5.0 and then add my own criticism that human-to-human dialogue is the missing dimension of any plan for future. Let alone for Society 5.0. But before starting this, I have to warn, or at least put a note, that with every technological development in human history, this discussion has been made and it is relevant. When, for example, printing machine was first invented and the very first printed books were actually Bible and religious books, the Christian church was divided in their understanding of whether this is a threat to the future of Christianity or it is an opportunity for the future of Christianity. The Catholic Church regarded the printing machine as a threat because it believed that people will start to learn about their religion from written word instead of the oral transmission that comes from the Pope and through the Pope by the ministries in the churches. And by time the church is going to lose its relevance, people will individualize their religious understanding and so on. The Protestant church, on the other hand, regarded this as an opportunity and said, instead of building one single link between man and God, printing facilities are going to bring church to each and every household. Both expectations were true, because by time Christianity became individualized, we cannot just attain this attest this development only to the printing machine, but it certainly had an impact on the understanding of individual persons' own faith, because people started to be able to read the books of the religion. When, for example, the TV was first invented, the traditional society had its own protectionist response and said that this is going to destroy the codes of the society, the bonds of the society. People are not going to continue on speaking to each other. They will go and watch TV all the time, and the social gatherings are going to be cancelled. These all came true, but the rather conservative response was to refer to TV as the single-eyed Satan, as you will remember. And yet the liberal response was TV is going to bring education to each household. From now on, we won't need to bring people together for trainings and education. We will be able to enter into houses. Everybody will be able to hear news from a central broadcasting agency and so on. When the internet and particularly mobile phones were introduced into our lives, a similar concern was raised. And if you have a son or a daughter around the ages of 10 to 15, you might be realizing that your children prefer spending time with their mobile phones or iPads than spending time with their parents. And of course, if you are the parent in this equation, you might feel this is a real challenge to the bonds of the society, the family. This TV already destroyed the neighborhood, and with the mobile phones, the family is being destroyed also. You may have heard, anecdotal stories of father, mother, and daughter living in different rooms of the same house and communicating through WhatsApp with each other instead of speaking face to face and so on. Or even ordering KFC to their own rooms and not bothering to come down to the kitchen to eat together. Now, these are all true stories. But no sane person would say, let us destroy all mobile phones. We wouldn't give up the conform that the mobile phones brought to our lives just because it is a challenge. Now I'm going to introduce you to Society 5.0, and we have to read and listen and discuss this issue of the challenges and opportunities that Society 5.0 might be bringing to our lives from the same perspective. As has always been, there will be people who claim that this is going to be amazing, and there will be people who will claim that this is going to destroy the last battalion, and the last battalion is the individual. The family is already destroyed by mobile phones. Then what we are left of humanity is our individual humanities. And the challenge and the discussion that I am going to bring in front of you is that Society 5.0, as opposed to the claim that the Japanese intellectuals suggest, is not going to be a human-centered project. It is going to destroy the human individual totally. If we do not infuse the missing dimension into it, human-to-human interaction. Now, let me first introduce you to the concept, and then to the criticism of the concept, and finally to the dialogue dimension. Just to keep in your mind, my presentation is about, you can just put it in a rather attractive way. When we have AI chatbots, do we still need Kerim Balci to chat with? Okay, that is by and large the question. And as people who are promoting dialogue in the society between different segments of the society, different ethnical, linguistic, religious, or even in ontological groups, that's a crucial question. We are organizing dialogue activities, but will we be able to attract younger generations 10 years or 20 years from now on who would be able to speak to, say, a Muslim AI bot online, and will be able to ask every intimate question about Islam instead of coming together with Muslims in a Ramadan iftar dinner? Will they choose the AI bot, or will they choose the human interaction? That is the question that I'm going to be trying to answer. First of all, the contents of my lecture is I will delve on a bit on what is Society 5.0, then the existing criticism against Society 5.0, and I will ask the precise question, do we need dialogue in the future? And finally end with the missing dimension of Society 5.0 dialogue. Now, what is Society 5.0? In fact, Society 5.0 is not offering us anything new. It is only offering us a clever combination of what we already have. Well, we can say a mobile phone is a clever combination of what we already had before the mobile phone. We did have phones on landline. We did have TV on unwired TV, and it's clever combination made up the mobile phone. And this is precisely in the same way that the Japanese government came up with the idea in 2016 as the core concept of the fifth Science and Technology Basic Plan, that the future of Japanese development is going to be around a clever combination of the inventions or innovations of Industrial Revolution 4.0, like Internet of Things, big data, AI, robots, the sharing economy, the blockchain, and so on. These are going to come together in order to help build a human-centered society. This is the idea. First of all, the Japanese suggested that the goal of Society 5.0 is to realize a society where people enjoy life to the fullest. Well, this is a criticism of Society 4.0. Society 4.0 corresponds largely to Industrial Revolution 4.0, or Society 2.0 as the agricultural society. Society 3.0 is the first industrial society. This is heavy industry society. And for Society 4.0 is the knowledge society. And Society 5.0 is, as I said, it is going to use the innovations of the previous society in a clever combination to make life to make people enjoy life in its fullest. Of course, you can ask, what is life to the fullest? I have to underline the Japanese understanding, at least, and I can say to a certain extent a global Western global understanding of life to the fullest is quite a minimum perspective of the life. First of all, it's a materialistic life. Life to the fullest for a person like myself, for example, who believes in in a transcendental authority, in God, in angels, in a world that is unseen. Life to the fullest involves my spiritual enlightenment, the spiritual joy that I have in helping others, in making this world a better place, and so on. The spiritual joy of believing in a life in the hereafter, that I am going to be resurrected, or if I'm a Hindu, that I will be reincarnated into this life several times, and hopefully each time in a better state, and so on. These all underline, in my understanding, the life in its fullest form. But Society 5.0 does not deal with these issues. It's a rather material enjoyment of this material world to its fullest. So according to the Society 5.0 intellectuals, the economic growth and technological development does exist for the purpose of enjoyment of life and not for the prosperity of a select few. Now I'm going to come to compare Society 4 and Society 5 by means of human perceptions of our lives in this world, but let me go through a few of the points that I already made about what kind of a society we will have. First of all, Society 5.0 as a project was prepared by the Japanese tech companies and philosophers in response to a few pressing needs of the Japanese society. Well, particularly the aging population, the seemingly unsustainable continuous development of economy, and the problems of management of the infrastructure that was mainly produced in between 1950 and 1970. This is a rather Western problem. Almost all Western countries, including Japan, has their main infrastructure built 50 years ago. Most of the electric lines in United States are 50 to 60 years old, and we have started seeing how they are collapsing by means of their management and so on. So Japan is, by and large, a model for the rest of the Western developed society. I may say, this is a Japanese saying, Japan is an advanced economy with advanced problems. I may say Society 5.0 is not trying to solve primitive problems of the people. It is trying to solve the advanced problems. So aging society is a really advanced problem. If you go to Africa, for example, aging society is not the problem. Too young society is the problem. There's a huge younger population. People are actually dying quite early in Africa. The overall age expectancy is around 50 in several African countries. So they don't have the problem of an aging society or insurance system. Who is going to pay for the lengthy lives of unproductive people who are retiring at the age of 65 and then living another 30 years, basically without producing anything but consuming. Somebody else has to pay for their health insurance and so on. That's not the issue in Africa. That's not the issue in several Asian countries. The real issue in several Asian countries is how to find jobs for the huge younger population. So this is Society 5.0 is, if it is not yet a global phenomenon, it's because the challenges that it is responding to are not global, but they are in South Korea. They are in United Kingdom. They are in Canada, in Germany. We do observe in Greece, even latecomer to the advanced economies, or in Portugal, we do see that there is a problem of aging population. So these are dealing with largely Western advanced economies problems. But once they are established, the solution becomes universal. Mobile phone was introduced as a response to the needs of the globalized Western economic sphere, but now it is being used globally, even in Africa, where people didn't need it. So once a technological solution is introduced for a highly technologically advanced society, it is consumed by the global society. It's not only consumed by the advanced technologies. Let me go over again. The Society 5.0 is looking for continuous value and service creation, and creation of these values, services, and products only in the amount that is needed by individuals, and only when they are needed. So I will come to this point in the criticism, but by and large, this suggests, to the level of we can understand this. Let us say you are a person at the age of 80, and you need, healthcare. All your health data is going to be united under one umbrella, so that the state actually will know all your needs. Well, the Society 5.0 does not say state, but a central computer will know all your needs. So you will be visited by a drone by means of your care products and so on, only to the level of you need them, and only to the level of at the time you need them. So it's a kind of just the amount, just the enough amount, and just in time. Just in time is an Industry 4.0 concept, as you know, but Japan is adding just enough amount to that one. So they believe Society 5.0 is going to have zero waste. Okay, because we cannot foresee how much bread we are going to consume tomorrow. But if I have a smart kitchen, the smart kitchen will actually be able to foresee, of course, if it is connected to my mobile phone and it is connected to my computer, laptop, and so on, it will know how many people are going to come visit us this week and so on. So the kitchen is going to know how many breads I will need, and it is going to ask for bread from the supermarket, and the drone is going to bring the bread to the kitchen. I'm not going to touch anything. I will only find the enough amount of bread in the kitchen whenever I need it. They will all be ready there, and I won't need to decide even, because everything will be decided for me. My needs are going to be decided already for me. The best option is going to be, if I want to watch a movie, I'm not going to discuss with my wife, did we watch this one before or not, because my smart TV set will know what I watched We'll know whether I enjoyed it or not in the previous session, thanks to the sensors that actually read my body temperature and weight my laughters and so on. So it will bring in front of me the best possible enjoyable alternatives to watch that night and so on. So that much of connectivity is going to assure zero waste society believes Society 5.0 advocates. Now, of course, that connectivity means that the real life and the cyberspace are going to be completely merged into each other. Well, you might have heard metaverse concept of interoperability. The Meta investment was a heartbreaking failure for the time being. It will be delayed till 2030s, I assume. I even was quite enthusiastic about establishing a metaverse community, but it is going to be a slow development. The technology was not ready, and the innovation was going ahead of the technology in the case of metaverse. But still, it produced some concepts that are going to shape our understanding of the future. Interoperability is one such concept. Interoperability refers to a kind of amalgamation of the real world and the virtual world. In fact, interoperability suggests that we shouldn't make any distinction between real and virtual. They both are real or they both are virtual. Well, actually, they are not both because they are not two worlds. It's just one world that we are living in. Society 5.0 accept this as an input. This is a starting point. Okay, so extreme connectivity between all things, including, as I said, your kitchen will be a smart kitchen, your car is going to be a smart car, your mobile phone, your laptop, or any kind of your fitness instruments that you are carrying on your body, or if you have any kind of health issue, like a heart battery and so on, they will be all connected to each other. And thanks to that connectivity, and that will be connected to the overall human society's information center, and an AI center is going to decide what is best for you. If you are having a walk in the morning, the AI is going to decide how much oxygen you need. So they are going to give you an alternative hiking path, which has the exact amount of oxygen you need, exact amount of steps you need to step, and so on. So that offers a very high level of certainty in life. You will know everything. Well, not you. AI is going to know everything it needs to know for your good. Now, I assume that you already have your own criticism about such level of connectivity, but let us continue on how this Society 5.0 will perform on particularly 5 challenges that, as I said, that the Japanese care about. Society 5.0 was developed as a response to 5 pressing needs of the Japanese economy and the Japanese society. One major problem in the Japanese society is the aging society. The population is aging. The Japanese society has 77 at the time of the preparation of Society 5.0 in 2016, had 77 million workforce. That will drop to 53 million in 2050. So the population at the age of productive, workable stages, meaning between 18 and 70, is going to drop almost 30%. That is going to put an amazing financial burden on the society. Whereas, on the other hand, the need for social care and healthcare is going to double by means of budget. Whereas it is like 120 trillion yen in 2016, it's going to be 240 trillion yens in 2050. So we will need more resources, and we will have less amount of people to create those resources. That is one major problem. But the aging society will also need a lot of more human resources to take care. We will need more nurses to take care of people. We will need more doctors, more hospitals, more ambulances, and so on, more houses for the elderly. So the solution is united health data and remote health services. So you won't need to go to the doctor. The doctor is going to come to you, either in a hologram and so on. With the kind of developed smart home technologies, you will not need to have blood tests anymore, because your kitchen is going to collect your blood samples or sweat sample or any kind of sample you are leaving behind, and it is going to be already analyzed when your doctor needs it. And the doctor does not need to be a real human person also. Only rarely human beings are going to be involved in your issues. Your kitchen, by and large, will cure you, because it is going to decide what you need to take, about your daily intake and so on. You will never forget taking your medicine, even if you have Alzheimer and so on. You will never forget it, because you will never need to remember it. There will be an AI that will take care of it and so on. So that is the solution side. A kind of unified, extremely connected database that is not only connected to your own information system, but also connected to the overall national, if not the global databases, which will create the best possible solution. When you hear this, it sounds perfectly, future. That is future. But I will come to the criticism. A second problem is the diminishing population for jobs. That's an interesting problem. In many societies, the robots or automated systems are taking over jobs, and we do have a problem of unemployment. Human beings are unemployed because companies do realize that robots are cheaper and do make less mistake. They don't have pregnancy leave, they don't have illness and so on, and their lifespan is longer than human beings. They don't need a kind of 6 months of preparation for the job. There is no need for orientation. They come handy, they come ready to work and so on. So the automation was a challenge to people. In many newly developing societies, that is still the case, and many people are concerned that in 30 years' time we will have real problem of unemployment, because robots are going to take over jobs. But in the case of Japan, the current problem is not unemployment of human beings. The current problem is there is no population for the jobs. So the solution is actually the unmanned solutions, the drones, the driverless cars. You may have heard in United Kingdom also there was a huge problem during the COVID pandemic, and it actually was a part of a global phenomenon. There were trucks, but there weren't drivers for trucks. And when you don't have drivers for the trucks, this means the whole transportation and delivery industry is collapsing, And when it is collapsed, the industry is collapsed. Well, actually, some years ago, it was underlined that enlightenment or modernity is transportation. When you don't have an ability to distribute goods to your supermarkets, why do you have modern life? In the end, if you don't have a driver for the truck, the idea to have trucks and the idea to have goods to distribute is meaningless. Well, of course, you can have driverless cars, and also already Tesla's trucks can actually drive without a driver. Now, these unmanned solutions are going to solve the problem of the diminishing population for jobs, says the Japanese. Of course, that is going to have another aspect of the problem. We will eventually come to a point where the automation or unmanned solutions are going to spread to such a level that suddenly the problem of diminishing population for jobs is going to turn into unemployment of the existing population. There should be a red line where you should stop. And in fact, South Korea has already reached that level. In 2017, South Korea introduced what we know as robot tax. One major issue with automation is when you employ somebody, you pay them. When you pay them, you pay tax also, insurance tax and so on, health tax and so on. But when you employ a robot, you don't pay the robot, so there is no surplus value. The money is not changing hands, so there is no taxation. So in 2017, South Korea introduced some kind of a robot tax, and that is the future where we are going towards, so that when a company employs automated systems instead of human beings, they will be forced to pay a tax to the government or a civil society organization that will take care of the unemployed human beings. Now, I will turn back to that as a criticism. The maintenance costs are largely about the infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt. And it is the coming 30 years, both in many Western societies and in developed economies like Japan and South Korea and Australia, are the years that we will need to rebuild the highways, the electricity grids, and so on. And it's going to be a costly endeavor. As I said, these were mainly built during the economic boom after the Second World War. So they belong largely to the years 1950 to 1970, but they need to be replaced. Train lines, highways, and so on. Particularly with the introduction of smart highways, most of the highways needs to be replaced. Not only just taken care of or maintained, they will need to be rebuilt. That's going to be billions of dollars of investment. But then maintenance costs need human beings also. That is going to be unmanned also. So robots, AI, sensors are going to be introduced, so that with a minimum number of human interaction, we will be able to take care of the maintenance of the infrastructure, whatever infrastructure it is. If it is a company that produces robots, for example, other robots are going to be taking care of the maintenance of the production line and so on. One last issue is the sustainability of economic growth. The sustainability of economic growth is a challenge already for Japan. Japan was already the second largest exporting country after Germany for most of the 21st century's first 20 years. But now it is China already replaced Germany and Japan at the top of the list, and Japan is losing that position. Probably India is coming close to the top. Brazil is a contender, and so on. Why? Because there's also a growing amount of demand from the society about ecological issues and so on, less use of nuclear energy and so on. So there needs to be a creative balance between economic growth and sustainability. And Society 5.0 says that sustainability lies in a fusion of cyberspace and the real world. So making connections between people and things. That's a crucial line. The solution says we will have better connections between people and things. This means you and your kitchen, you and your garden, you and your car, not you and your neighbor. Okay? Well, you will have better connections with the whole neighborhood or the city, but only through things. So Internet of Things is going to be the bridge between Internet of human beings. And that is the kind of question that I am going to problematize today. Now, approach of transformation, meaning our perceptions of the society are going to change. Society 5.0 claims. Society 4.0, by and large, and we can say Society 3 was quite similar also, because one is Society 3 corresponds to Industrial Revolution 3, meaning heavy industry. Society 4 is the knowledge society. So in both of these societies, the idea was by means of the scale of production, economies of scale was there. So efficiency was number one concern of people. In Society 5.0, they say problem solving and value creation is going to be the top priority. Well, when they say value creation, the value is the materialistic value. It's not a spiritual value, as I underlined. The modernity was looking towards a kind of systemic approach to solve the problems. For example, the education institutions of Society 4.0 was largely trying to create a citizen, which looks like each other, a minimum acceptable citizen. And it was suppressing individuality, and it was trying to create homogeneous societies and so on, whereas Society 5.0 will be 100% open to diversity, because thanks to the AI and IoT and the big data and so on, we will be able to perform in a highly diverse society because AI does not have prejudices about our individual needs, individual desires, and so on. Again, modernity was the time in politics, particularly of nation state, concentration of power in the governments, and so on. So through the liberation of this from disparity, we will go towards more decentralization. In fact, every single human being will be able to contribute to the decision makings and so on. It's an extremely decentralized society. Much of the decisions will be able to be given on our behalf through our needs. So, for example, if your AI already knows how we are going to vote in a particular plebiscite on a referendum, why not hold a referendum in every second where you are not going to be voting, but AI who knows how you are going to vote will vote on your behalf, and there is going to be an extreme decentralization, says 5.0. Well, the Society 4.0 had all kinds of vulnerabilities in its center. Like, for example, what will I do if I lose my job? Anxieties about unemployment, inability to find a new job, anxieties about getting ill, anxieties about your human rights. What will happen? A dictatorship comes to the power, and what will happen if there is an earthquake next day, as it happened in Turkey? All kinds of vulnerabilities and so on. This new Society 5.0 will be resilient towards any such possibility. And one last thing is the environmental impact of mass consumption of resources. This Society 5.0 is going to be environmentally harmonious because it's going to spend zero waste society, so it will be environmentally friendly. Now let me move I am coming towards the end. Move to the criticism of Society 5.0. This is not my criticism. I'm going to come to that in the next slide. This is an overall existing criticism. First of all, the most famous criticism is the New Brave World criticism. This is Aldous Huxley's dystopian novel, written back in 1931. Well, Huxley had an amazing mind. Already in 1931, Huxley prophesied the kind of society that we will have after the mobile phones. It's precisely Society 5.0 Huxley was speaking, but in a dystopian way. In fact, in 1960s, Huxley wrote an amendment or addition, I may say, but it became rather more dystopian. The gist of the novel is that much of connectivity means somebody out there in the regime, in the government, will have access to all information, and that is going to lead to a totalitarian regime. Well, the issue is this. If an AI starts to decide what you need to eat and what would you best watch in the evening as a family fun time and so on, that's already a totalitarian regime. That is one of the criticisms. The human element is going to blur. One particular aspect of this New Brave World criticism is this. We human beings learn from our mistakes. And if Society 5.0 is promising a society where we will never do mistakes because we will never give decisions, they will be always given by AI or at least supported by AI, we will never do mistakes. Well, that means we will never learn anything. Or we will start learning in the same way as computers learn, and that is precisely dehumanization of human beings. This criticism says. I have to admit that there is a certain level of wisdom in this criticism. Storm of disruption refers to the loss of jobs and widespread redundancies in all kinds of professions. Well, actually, we have had this during the COVID pandemic. In one night, Uber drivers lost their jobs. They were redundant because nobody was taking a taxi, nobody was going out of house, and so on. But suddenly, Uber Eats became a new job in one night, because people, when they cannot go out, they cannot go to restaurants also, and they needed the food to come to their houses, if possible, to their rooms. And suddenly, restaurant sector collapsed, by takeaway sector surged. So with one pandemic, millions of jobs were lost, millions of new jobs were created. I have been playing with OpenAI's ChatGPT. OpenAI has come to such a level that imams, for example, who want to speak to their congregation in the past will need to make a lot of research and write a khutbah. This is the text of the preaching that they read on a Friday prayer. It takes only several seconds for OpenAI to produce you one of the best written khutbahs that you can read during your Friday prayer. Well, that means that a lot of jobs are going to be lost, particularly research jobs are going to be lost because AI is going to be able to reach to more sources faster than you and so on. A lot of jobs are going to be redundant. Well, critics of Society 5.0 suggest that this level of automation, humanless, service production and so on will lead to storm of disruption, meaning many people will be unemployed. As I said already, South Korea is at that level, so they had to establish the robot tax in order to prevent another storm of disruption. Techno-solutionism is an amazing, largely coming from the left, a criticism. Sorry. This means that I have been speaking almost about an hour. So let me hurry. Techno-solutionism is a problem, first of all, and it emerged with the mindset of the technology people. A good example is Elon Musk. Another one is the Zuckerberg people. These people do believe that our social problems can be fixed with a better combination and smarter use of technology. Okay, they think that Twitter can improve our democracies. This was the mistake Elon Musk made when he bought Twitter. Facebook did the same mistake when they tried to introduce a kind of Facebook-based training education system to the already corrupt public schools in California. And it was a huge catastrophe for their education system. Techno-solutionism is largely about, I don't know if you remember in Thailand, there was a group of young children, kids, stuck in an underwater cave, and they needed to be brought out because the water levels went up. They were not able to turn back. They needed to swim quite a long way, and professional, swimmers needed to help them. And even then, Elon Musk also came up in one night with the idea of producing a diving machine that didn't need to breathe underneath water and so on. Techno-solutionism precisely refers to this one. The problems of the society are largely human problems. Those cannot be solved with technology. Technology can be helpful, but as long as the human dimension is kept there, because the problems are human problems. Problems are cognitive problems. Problems are about our spiritual needs and so on. A better use of technology is not going to solve the problem. But unfortunately, techno-solutionism is over death. Like, for example, I have been bombarded. I have been bombarded with lots of new AI programs that were written within one night or 2 nights after the earthquake in Turkey. Of course, if you are a coder living in California, and if you care about the earthquake in Turkey, the best you can do, well, you can send some money. The second you can do is to come up with an idea of an app that can help people, find their relatives, communicate a hotel that is opening their gates to the victims of the earthquake and so on. But because this techno-solutionism is there, human dimension is lost. Well, the point is there needs to be human beings that go to the earthquake place. There are still people alive under the collapsed buildings, and they need to be taken out. This is human job. Okay, but techno-solutionists this has become almost a new ideology. If you want to solve all your problems, click here mentality. Okay? There's no such button that will solve all your problems, and it seems that Society 5.0 is actually is altogether neglecting the human dimensions of a human-centered society. That is where I'm going to deal with when I came to the dialogue. I already touched the dehumanization of communication. Well, the point is this: our cultural capital is transformed from parents to children, teachers to kids, the street life to the members of the neighborhood society, and so on, through contact. A part of our cultural capital has to do with respect to the elderly, respect to the teacher, respect to the imam in the mosque, respect to the guru, because as being human beings, they actually lead our lives, inspire our thinking systems, pray for us, and so on. You don't respect an AI. Okay, you can trust, but you don't respect an AI. It's a robot. Well, even if you respect an AI, well, that means you will lose your respect to the teacher. Okay, you will lose your respect to the doctor. You will lose the trust to the human doctor that cures you. If you go to your GP, well, you won't need to go to your GP because a drone doctor will come to your house, they say in Society 5.0. But let us say you go to the general practitioner or the family doctor, and a robot like the one here on the screen takes care of your needs and so on. You lead there. You won't. That is not going to create any kind of gratitude to other human beings. Education will become meaningless. Religion will become completely meaningless. And this will become, eventually, human beings will become more robot-like. That's a real criticism of future. Many people have been discussing humanoids, robots becoming human-like, yeah? Whether they will have consciousness, whether they will have the kind of inspirations that we have, whether they will be able to have intuitions as human beings have, whether they will believe in a superior authority like God, whether they will dream one day, and so on. But the real problem, real possibility, or dystopian possibility of future, if we don't do anything in dialogue societies about that, we human beings are going to lose them. And this is precisely what I am going to touch when I say the missing dimension is dialogue. Let me move to that one. And why do we need dialogue in such a future? First of all, including myself, everybody accepts that Society 5.0 is not a project. It's something in the coming. Now, because this is the digital capitalism, it is already there. It's only a creative combination of all possible things that we have together. I remember when Zoom was very first established, Zoom was gathering information about your movement of your pupil, the eye. And through the movement of your pupil, Zoom was able to calculate your level of attention, whether you are tired, you are listening to or not listening to the presenter, and so on. At that stage, they were not using that information. We still don't know whether they are gathering that information or not, because it's a valuable information. Think of it. I'm speaking about I'm speaking about Coke, and suddenly all of your eye pupils are opening wide. Okay, that is a data you gave to AI. Okay, you are craving for Coke. This means the next advertisement you will get is going to be about Coca-Cola or other Cokes, whoever is using that mechanism. Now, those informations, if you have read Yuval Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, not all of them are meaningful, I assume, and I always believed Yuval Harari would best stay as a historian of the past, not as a historian of the future, but still the hackability of human beings is a real problem. It's a real thing that's already there. It's not a dystopian, futuristic thing. Anyhow, now I'm going to speak about why do we need dialogue, human-to-human dialogue, in such a future that is already coming. It's not a project. It's not something a hypothetical, futuristic story that probably will not come, because it's not speaking about technologies that will be developed in the future. It's only speaking about the technologies that already exist will come together. It's just saying that I'm going to unite your ID information with your health information. Okay, and once it's just a law legislation issue. They can do that, and apparently Japan has decided to do that, and many other countries will follow, obviously. Now the point is this: why do we need dialogue? First of all, why do we need dialogue in this Industry 4 era? One particular aspect of dialogue related largely to the transportation or transfer of culture systems to the new generations. Mikhail Bakhtin, a Russian philosopher, regarded dialogue as an ontological necessity. What does this mean? This means that you become a human being only through a dialogue, human-to-human dialogue. Bakhtin suggested that human consciousness is not produced in one single mind or body. First of all, we don't know what is consciousness. And that is the tricky question about whether the robots are going to be able to produce, to develop consciousness, because we don't know what is consciousness. It is like the subconscious that we don't know also. We don't know where is consciousness. Is it in our brain? Is it overlapping from our bodies? Is it unlinked to our bodies? Can we be conscious without a body? And so on. Like transhumanists believe that it has nothing to do with our bodies. We can cut off the limbs and so on. We will still be conscious, okay, as long as we are alive. And anyhow, Bakhtin believes that consciousness is an interim phenomenon. It is developed between me and the society that I am speaking to, that I am communicating to. if this is going to be taken in its face value, this means that we will be unconscious in a society where we don't speak to each other. If you are speaking to a mobile phone most of the time, if you are speaking to Siri most of the time, if your communication largely is not human to human, but human to robot, you won't have a consciousness. Well, what does this mean? I will just put it in a caricaturized form. I'm not sure whether you have heard the term prompt engineering. This is a new job that has come out with the OpenAI. Well, OpenAI is only 2 months old, and a new job is already created about OpenAI. Prompt engineering is this: how to tell OpenAI to do something in a way that OpenAI is going to best understand your expectation. Believe me, it is not human communication. It's a robot communication. In that robot communication, you behave like the robot instead of behaving like human. It's precisely when we are speaking to our children when they are 2 to 3 years old, their consciousness is yet to be developed. It's not a full-fledged human consciousness. So we speak a childish language, yeah? We go down to their level so as to help them understand our intention better. But of course, that wouldn't be our way of expressing our intentions in between mature consciousnesses. Now, take it to the robot level. We know that if you speak about your expectations in the same way you speak to Muhammad, for example, the AI is not going to understand you well. But you know that AI has a specific algorithm that is developed out there through interactions. And if you say things like, you already know, for example, that AI is not coding propositions. Okay? You know, you don't, if Muhammad is a coder, and if you need a program, a software that does put enough amount of sugar to your coffee. Okay, that's my human experience now. You say, Mohammed, I need a software that decides, enough amount of coffee, sugar for my coffee. Okay, this is human interaction. But in the case of OpenAI, you know that it is not going to code I and want. It's not going to code my. These are propositions. So you say enough software, enough sugar, coffee. Okay. So this is prompt. And this is the new job. It's going to pay a lot, particularly in art, in cartooning, in many people have started producing their logos with AI, but you need to be able to be the good communicator with the AI. But that communication is not human communication. That's not human communication. That is not going to transfer value systems. That is not going to transfer the kind of value load that the words carry. Like, for example, when we say mommy, it doesn't give us only the meaning of motherhood. It also brings us a certain level of warmth. It brings us a certain level of being at home, belonging, security. These are senses that are accompanied with the language that we are speaking. And those senses are created during human-to-human interaction. That is consciousness. That is. related to the consciousness, not the meaning system. The senses linked to the meaning systems, to the words, are a part of our consciousness. Well, in fact, intuitions are about those senses also, not the meanings. Well, in a communication with a computer, in the long run, we will start thinking and communicating like the AI. That is the danger of, this is dehumanized human beings, so, or robotized human beings. That is the ontological necessity. If this is true, without dialogue, we will lose to be human beings. We are not going to be human beings. There's a group of philosophers. Well, actually, this is a new trend. It's a very old philosophical school, antique Greek philosophical school that goes back to the Plato time. This is the philosophical school called process philosophy, or the process philosophers are also called the ontology of becoming philosophers. These people are developing an ecological civilization idea. They say we don't need a society 5.0. What we need is an ecological civilization. We don't need to be better connected with things that, again, we created, but we need to be better connected with things that God created or nature gave us, and so on. So better connectivity with your cat is much more valuable than better connectivity with your AI controlled hover, cleaning machine or kitchen, and so on. The ecological civilization, well, the ontology of becoming is interesting, because ontology of becoming suggests this. Things themselves do have values, but their attributes also have separate values. And from the antiquity up until now, philosophers usually spoke about things themselves and attributes being loaded onto them as temporary things, not unimportant temporary things. For example, this is Kerim Balci speaking to you, but he has a headache. Okay? The headache is only a part of Kerim Balci's becoming. Tomorrow probably is not going to have a headache. Yesterday he didn't have a headache. You won't remember Kerim Balci as a headached person, okay? Because it's not about my essence. It is something that is accidentally or incidentally loaded onto me by external reasons and so on, or by my decisions, okay? This is not the essence. This is the classical essential philosophy. Essential philosophy is the philosophy of being. But the philosophers of ontology of becoming, they suggest that as much as the fact that Kerim Balci is essentially a teacher is important, the fact that he had a headache is actually is quite important, because that is precisely how we experienced his lecture. Now, the philosophers of process suggest that there are human beings, yes. Essentially, all human beings are valuable, but in this particular era, what the human being is becoming is still very much important. That's precisely referring to the change of human nature. And they say we have lost our human nature, which was in harmony with the nature, with the ecology, with the ecosystem that we were living in, and that suggests that we are less human compared to the previous eras. So we need to turn back to our essential purity, or harmony with the ecology, they suggest. Now, this is a criticism of Society 5.0 also, because the dehumanization or blurring of our connections with the nature, blurring of our connections with other human beings, and so on, is actually dehumanizing us. If, for example, your smart kitchen takes care of everything, it's already an experience we have had in our house. I never realized that my daughter never saw a chicken in his life. We do go to KFC and eat chicken. If there are vegans here, my apologies. But she never realized that what we eat was actually a living being. So we went to Wales a few years ago and hired an Airbnb house in a village which had chickens around it, and she loved the chicken to feed the chickens and so on. The very first thing was to realize the egg was coming out of those animals, and the second thing she realized was at KFC we were eating those animals. Now, this is actually precisely what ecological civilization is referring to. The more you are disconnected from the nature, the more you will become less human, you know. That we need a dialogue with the nature. We need a dialogue with our natural environment, whereas Society 5.0 suggests that we need to go out less. Stay at home, everything is going to come to you. Don't go work because I will arrange a robot to work instead of you. What will I do then? What will I do in the spare time that is created, in the leisure time that is created, if dialogue is not there? Techno-solutionism is also, I already dealt with this problem, but there is also an issue of dialogue again. Well, we believe, particularly in interfaith, intercultural, inter-ethnical, interlinguistic dialogue, the fourth level of dialogue is start solving common problems together. So at the very first level, we meet each other. You know, Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus and Christians and Jews come together, meet each other, overcome our prejudices, and start understanding the other in the way the other wants to be understood. And in the third level, become friends. But the fourth level, this is the highest level of dialogue, is start creating solutions for common problems. We do have floods in India. Every year, that is a part of our life in India. Let us work together to fight against floods and so on. We do have earthquakes in certain parts of the world. Let us come together and leave aside our religious, linguistic, ethnical, nationalist, ideological differences and deal with the problem. That is dialogue. That's the highest level of dialogue. But techno-solutionism suggests that you don't need to speak. You need an app. You need an app to solve the problems. We don't need to speak. The computer is going to solve the problems and so on. The idea that our social problems can be fixed with a smarter technology means we don't need human beings. We don't need human beings in our problems and so on. That is also a part that we need to overcome. That is precisely why we need to start a smarter dialogue about our future. Let me finish with the dehumanization aspect. I already touched this loss of all cultural capital, respect for the elderly, and so on. Particularly in religious communities, people are speaking about how artificial intelligence Internet of Things, and so on are going to change our understanding of religion. Okay? In my religion, I'm a Muslim. In my religion, religious elderlies are particularly trustworthy and useful when you have a problem, a question. Okay, is it true to do this or wrong to do this? Okay, and that is precisely how a civilization is built up. A generation actually transfers the wisdom to the next generation. It's not altogether accepted as it is. It is metamorphed into something with the wisdom that the new generation produces, but still the guidance comes from the elderly and so on, or, the more knowledgeable. Now, I am regarded as a knowledgeable man of religion. People ask me questions. My daughter asks me a question, and then she goes and asks the same question to AI, OpenAI. And OpenAI brings down all kinds of other possibilities in front of her. And she turns back to me and says, "You don't know this. You didn't tell me this. I say, I told you that answer because I knew you. I knew your needs. You didn't need to know that aspect of that problem because that has nothing to do with you," and so on. You don't know this issue, she says to me. This is not a dream. This has happened time and again. Okay? Time and again. Well, doctors always complain about patients first asking to Google about what's happening to me, and then getting crazy about having a cancer and so on, but having only an iron deficit. Okay? Why? Because the respect, the trust is lost out there. The human element is lost out there. And that is going to change a lot in our religions and so on. Once that trust factor, that respect factor is lost altogether, and it will be lost altogether. We will need to find a creative way of staying human. And I believe organizations like Dialogue Society might have looked at the need to dialogue from a perspective of the pressing needs of our era. Yes, xenophobia is a real problem in India. Any kind of conflict between religious groups is a real problem in India. And Dialogue Society in India might have thought that this is the pressing issue. We first need to bring Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus together and overcome these prejudices and so on. It is true. It is really true. But even that problem might become a lovely problem in the future because we might lose human beings altogether. That is why we need dialogue. Even if we will have Society 5.0, we will have. In the same way we did have mobile phones, despite the fact that many people prophesized dystopian things about having mobile phones at your home. We have Alexas at our homes, despite the fact that many people think, and they are correct, that Alexa is listening. It is listening all the time because they love data. That is the data machine. It gathers data. But we won't give up. We won't give up Society 5.0, but we need to start a human dialogue that will keep the heartbeat of humanity beating. Thank you very much for your patience. I know I overspoke, but I already warned you, in the beginning. I assume I warned you that I won't be able to speak short.
So what are your comments, Akanksha?
Hi, it was really interesting, but obviously there are a lot of issues and sir already discussed. But one thing I found, while they are mentioning, they are going to be more ecological sustainability towards, but that is not like clearly it's saying they are not moving towards that, because they are going to develop or create more techno or electronical garbage. And it just reminded me the movie that called Wall-E. That was really fantastic movie. So that's like that was itching me. How they can say they are moving towards the sustainable environmental development. And there are a lot of issues. Others, I just love to hear others' comments.
Could you think of a question to ask?
He's really clear, like he's clearly putting his thoughts. So I'm really impressed. Let's see if there are questions.
Yeah, there's not a doubt that he is impressive, but yeah, do think of a question for him. He should also have something to think about till we have his next session. Kulsum?
I'm trying to come up with something, because I mean, it was a very interesting session. There was a lot to know, but I feel like it was a very practical session in the sense that we got a lot of real life examples. So
It's really useful, and it makes us think about our choices when it comes to technology. There's no doubt.
especially the whole idea of like AI and what it means now that it's slowly kind of taking over a lot of things, how it's taking over dialogue. Because I think one of the most sort of interesting debates happening around AI is the idea of how AI is sort of blending the relationship, not blending, I should say blurring the relationship between art and commerce. And art is like a really powerful form of dialogue. So how does that affect things, you know?
I think till the time we don't have something that's economically sustainable and viable in AI, I don't think it's that big a scare for us. Till the time Alexas and Siris are collecting information about us, it's a different thing, because we are the product. But they need to be a really powerful and economically viable product. AI needs to become one in order to take over our lives in the truest sense.
And it also like raises really interesting questions of ownership, as in who owns art, how can we like communicate with people through it? If it's like being machine generated, do we count that as dialogue? Do we count that as art?
So but in the future, Kulsum, don't you think that we're only going to have problems that are related to technology? Then we don't have religious problems and problems of the society.
Very possible, because it's really slowly, and especially since after I saw things like Black Mirror, that really got to me, because I thought, I know it's like sci-fi and all of that, but so much of it made sense. There were episodes where I was like, I can see this happening in real life. This could really be a problem. And I think we're really heading towards something like that. So even being Gen Z and like being exposed to the internet all the time, I do think it's not going to be that good for us soon down the line.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Mr. Balja is back. Welcome back, sir. And we have a lot of interesting comments, and I'm sure a lot of questions. So buckle up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat box already. But if there is any question, don't bother with asking questions. If you have a comment, I love to listen to comments.
Yeah, so we have a lot of comments here already. Do you want me to read them out for you?
Well, I assume Pragya, the idea that we need to knock the door of actually knocking the door of other neighbors was one strategy we have had adopted back in 2003 to start, as a kind of icebreaker. We were not asking sugar. Sugar does not start at that stage, because everybody had the sugar. it doesn't start a dialogue. You needed to ask something that will probably not exist in the neighbor's house. And probably they will ask, what is that? Okay. I had that experience in Palestine. I was living in a neighborhood close to Jerusalem. One midnight, our door was knocked. A lady with a baby crying knocked the door, and she says, Maramia. And she asked, Maramia. And we didn't know what is Maramia. And apparently, it was a kind of laxative tea or something that they used among Palestinians for the baby who was having gas in order to overcome the problem. But we became friends with that lady, okay? Because it took some time to speak about Maramia, okay? If she had asked sugar, it will take only 30 seconds for me to bring sugar and say bye, okay? And I wouldn't say next time when we met in the street, well, I checked and I now know what is Maramia, okay? Because I asked many Arab friends, and because she was not able to explain what is Maramia at that pressing incident and so on. Now, our strategy was to ask something that usually Turkish people use in the kitchen, okay? And the neighbor would say, what is that? Well, that's something we kind of herbs, for example. Most of the herbs you Indians use are unknown among the British and so on. That will start a meaningful dialogue. Okay? Yeah, we need to knock the doors of our neighbors. Otherwise, yeah, the culture is killing. Well, the human touch or face-to-face communication at the philosophical level also is very much at the core of our human existence. Emmanuel Levinas, a Jewish French, the Jewish side is important here. Emmanuel Levinas developed his philosophy after the Second World War. And his major question was, how come human beings were able to kill other human beings like insects? Well, even that word is difficult now because I cannot kill insects. But you know how? And he developed the philosophy called the call of the face. It's a very low level of humanness to be able to harm another human being when you are looking at the face, because face reminds us of the humanity of the others. Now, in your mind, cut off the limbs of a human body, you will still say human. But when we see alien figures, hypothetical alien figures, which does have a distorted face, we say, no, this is not a human being. This is an alien. Despite the fact that they have legs and arms, everything that human beings has, but the face is distorted, we say, no, this is not a human being. Okay? So the face has an amazing call to humanity. Emmanuel Levinas says that. That is actually the face-to-face element is important, not the touching very much. I know we use the term human touch as metaphorically. It is basically face-to-face communication. That shouldn't be lost. And I think in the future we will need to formalize some kinds of strategies in dialogue society-like organizations to bring people together for face-to-face communication. Already in the United States, there are digital detox camps. Like, for example, people are leaving all mobile phones, all other digital machines aside, and they are going to the mountainous areas and having a camp for 15 days. In the first 5 days, the anxiety, the issue, I am sure you know nomophobia. This is, the phobia of inconnectivity, meaning there's no Wi-Fi, and that there's already an illness. People, younger generation, do check very first thing whether there is connectivity if they are going to go to have a cup of coffee and so on. So that has already become an illness. But that is precisely the kind of exit routes towards back to humanity, I may say. Let me stop. Rashmi wants to comment, I assume.
Thank you, Professor. I think excellent. We really enjoyed. I did enjoy your philosophical insight, I would say, not a lecture, just not a lecture, because so much of your own essence was brought into the explanations. It was marvelous, I would say. So I just have a question with regard to when you raised the idea of preserving consciousness and spirituality. So if we are moving from society 4.0 to 5.0, so it seems that till 4.0 we were kind of sustainable because it is also carrying over 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, and then so let us assume that 4.0 is the end of the world and this is how we are adjusting, and material comfort is the end of it, because we are headed towards that. We are looking for switches which can turn on and turn off everything. So if we are happy with that, for example, then what is the relevance of spirituality? Like, why would we still seek spirituality? Why would we still want consciousness? Because somewhere happiness is connected to our well-being, and we are kind of assuming that the material world is governing us, and we are kind of, sufficient with it. I would use the word. So then where does spirituality intervene, firstly? And the second point that I wanted to raise, maybe comment, is with regard to the extreme intervention of systems that is outside our consciousness, and which is kind of AI in today's time. It can convert into anything else in the future. But I want to ask that, not ask, but comment that then the idea of procreation, two human beings coming together and the world still progressing, that may kind of dissipate. So the dystopia is also about the elimination of human civilization that way, not only just converting ourselves into robots, I would say. Over to you. Thank you.
Rashmi, first of all, the second comment is a valuable comment, and I think that needs to be deeply discussed. The issue of human beings becoming things is at the core of several other ideologies. Materialism does look at human beings as flesh and bone, aggravation of flesh and bone. We are largely a very well produced machines according to materialistic understanding. Transhumanism is it's already an ideology. I would say a philosophy, if you wish, a philosophy that rejects spacism. The term spacism is a very crucial term here. All religious philosophies and the wisdoms of the Eastern countries, like, even if they are not religion, Confucianism and so on, if you look at them only wisdom philosophies, in all of these, there is one unique element that is common to all of them, uniqueness of human beings. We human beings, as a species, are different, are at the core of existence. We have, or we believe we have, the authority, the right to name things, The cats do not name other things. We name things. We build up a replica of nature or the material world in our minds, and we create ideologies. These are called secondary facts. In our minds, we categorize things. We count things. Very rarely animals count things. The best animal that can count is up until 4. After 5, animals do lose their counting ability. The science tells us. Why are these important? This spacism is at the core of all religious or philosophical traditions that has wisdom at the core of their teachings. Veganism and transhumanism are rejecting spacism. They say materialism rejected spacism also. These are ideologies that say we are just animals, just like other animals. We might be smarter because of the chance incidents of Darwinian evolutionary development and so on, but we are weaker. We can't fly, for example. All of us want to be able to fly, but we can't. So we have weaknesses. We have strengths also, but we are just another species. We have no priority or superiority to the other species. In Islam, in Judaism, and in Christianity, if you can call these as religious traditions of revelation, in religious traditions of revelation, the whole universe is created for human beings. This is altogether being lost in a society where artificial intelligence becomes a part of decision making and so on. This is a new society where our special space status as a species that can think consciously is getting lost. To what? We are not seeing an alien that comes from outside the world. This was always in the imaginations of the latest generations, that one day a new species from outer space is going to come. They will be conscious as us, and they will have a different project about the world and so on. They will invade the world, or they will say, get out of this world, you corrupted the nature, and so on. Or the people from Atlantis, for example, that's also an imagination of non-human human beings. The people from Atlantis are usually regarded as sea people. So in all utopian writings is also always an island, for example, either undersea island or an island, and so on. They are different. So throughout history, we have had an obsession with the idea of non-human conscious beings coming and changing the world. Okay. Well, to a certain extent, if you are looking to the religious traditions from a materialistic perspective, the idea of angels, spirits, genies, and fairies, and so on, these are also the same imagination. A materialist person would say this is precisely the same imagination of looking for conscious non-human beings to share this world. Okay, we made up things, they say. In anyhow, for the first time, we human beings are producing something that is going to be conscious, or that we believe it will become conscious. Many technology experts do say that artificial intelligence is never going to attain consciousness. I, on the other hand, always say we don't know, because we don't know what is consciousness. We can't. When will we decide, oh, this is conscious? Okay. What is the red line? When we will say this machine is a conscious machine? We won't be able to say that because we don't know where consciousness begins and where it ends. And anyhow, we are sharing our spatial status as the privileged species with something that we created. That is a huge challenge to humanity. And that is also a huge opportunity, yes, but it is a huge, huge challenge. That is element of, altogether losing humanity. We don't become unhuman beings. When you lose the spatial status of human beings, you lost humanity. Okay. If one day aliens come from a remote planet and start living among us, either peacefully or fighting with us, humanity is already lost. The moment you lost the status of being a spatial species, you lost humanity. Okay. And the moment you have artificial intelligence with a kind of consciousness, a replica of human consciousness, you lost humanity. In order to save humanity, you need to continue on developing consciousness. I will now turn back to your first question, Rashmi. In fact, I believe we will need more spirituality in an era of having AI bots that cannot replicate our spiritual experiences. Many people, I will just try to bring it closer to human mind. When people try to negate the possibility of artificial intelligence taking over as the real human or uber-human, okay? The idea that artificial intelligence won't be able to say, I'm better than you. Okay, now I am this species that names things and so on because I'm better than you. Well, by the way, let me give you this example. Facebook had an experiment on how to learn languages, and the experiment was was based on the idea that we do learn languages in this world by listening. Children, they are born into a language environment, they listen for about 2-3 years, and they try to make the same sounds, and they are rewarded by the cheering mothers and fathers and so on. They got happy and they start replicating the new sounds more and more. Eventually they understand that those sounds mean something, and so that is how we are learning. Okay, they said it takes 2.5 years for human children because we are not exposed to enough amount of linguistic experience. We don't listen 24 hours, and speeches usually take some time. As you see, this lecturer spoke 1.5 hours to deliver a message. It took a lot of time. We can do this much faster with computers. So they created 2 AI computers speaking to each other instead of a human speaking to an AI computer in order to observe change of language. And it was only a few days, the two created a new language speaking to each other in a language that we don't understand, but they understood each other. Okay, so they unplugged the project because they were afraid. They were really afraid. That is precisely the singularity point where an AI is going to come out and say, I am this privileged species. I'm better than you. Okay. Now, when we say that, cynics of AI, they say, well, they can't love. An AI cannot love. They cannot hate. They cannot devote themselves to a cause. these are the things that make us superior human beings. And I'm saying that is precisely why we need more love and more spiritual aspect, development of human spirituality to such an extent that AI will never be able to replicate. So, for example, when you ask Elon Musk is a dystopian, okay, or a capitalist. Both are almost the same. He's a dystopian. He says one day these robots are going to take over. So he says, let us do robots that we can kill. Okay? Because these robots that we now producing are unkillable, you know? We cannot kill them. Let us do robots that has half human parts so that we can kill them. So humanoids is his answer. You know, cyborgs is his answer to the problem. Meaning, let us create robots that have weaknesses. Okay? My answer is, let us make human beings stronger. Okay? We have an amazing strength that is probably not going to be replicated by any other thing, let alone AI, and that is our spirituality. Okay, I'm not saying this or that spirituality. I'm not saying Muslim, Hindu, or well, love is a spiritual element. Okay, we don't love with our brains. There is something that flows out of human body. Okay, and so let us love. Okay, let us love. Let us spread love. Let us work on philosophical aspects of our spirituality so that our human uniqueness will continue on thanks to our spiritual elements. And of course, that necessitates a kind of open, creative dialogue about our spiritual experiences. Now, many of the spirituality, Muslim spirituality, is actually exported from India. You know, chakras and so on are all translated into Arabic in a rather early era, and they were Islamicized. We call them lataif. The chakra is called in Arabic latifa. I assume you have the name latifa among Muslims there also, but latifa is the subtlety, and it corresponds to the Indian chakras and so on. Now, spirituality is amazing for a dialogue because it does not have borders. You know, we cannot create a kind of amalgamation of our rituals. We can't say, let us pray like Muslims, fast like Christians, and do pilgrimage like the Indians in Ganj and so on. No, it won't work. It will be new religion. But in spiritual experiences, we can give and take to any other religious groups, to humanitarians. Okay? In that sense, I believe that is precisely what we need in the coming Society 5.0. We need more spirituality to keep our uniqueness as human beings. That is our superiority to machines, and let us keep that. I hope, I'm sure the computer geeks are going to say, well, we will replicate your spirituality in machines also. Okay, what you say, love, is actually, I am sure you watched Artificial Intelligence, Spielberg's first AI film. There, a boy falls in love with his mother. There's a robot. Okay, people die, mother dies, everybody dies, but that love continues on in the robot, AI robot, and so on. That's a dystopian understanding of love, and none of us would accept that that is real human love. Yeah, I believe there is a need, genuine need, to speak about our spiritual need. By the way, the transhumanitarians, transhumanist philosophers, they do believe that we don't need spirituality, because they believe that we can overcome death. Okay. Well, the point is this. There is a constant call to spirituality as long as we are mortal. Mortality is a constant call to spirituality. You either have to be completely aloof to human experience in this world or in the hereafter and say, well, just like the chicken that we slaughter and eat, human beings are also any other species. They come to this life and die and turn back to the nature. They become rotten and soil and so on. Nothing else to remember about the human beings. That's extreme materialism. Transhumanists, on the other hand, they say we will find a way to overcome mortality, human mortality. Well, when you overcome the human mortality, you might say we no longer need to ask this classical questions of philosophy. From where I am coming, where I am going. Okay, these are the unseens. Okay, as long as we have that question, spirituality will continue on being meaningful. Speaking on spirituality is meaningful, but also sharing spiritual experiences, not necessarily sharing by words, but sharing by deeds and experiencing it is also valuable. You know, you go to an African tribe and dance with them around one single point, which seems to be underlining monotheistic faith, you know, a kind of oneness of existence and so on. You feel it only at a certain level of dancing and so on. They tell it to you, you won't accept it. You experience it. Such level of experience might also be needed in the future. You know, maybe our, the digital detox camps or dialogue camps of the future might incorporate certain levels of spiritual experiences. I assume the time is over.
Yeah, the time is up.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock I have a meeting in central London, and it is 1 hour of drive, so I will also need to leave. If there is a pressing question, if there was a hand rising and they wanted to speak, I can stay 5 more minutes. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Balci. Thank you so much for joining us through your busy schedule, taking the time out for us, and we really hope that you recover really soon, and you make time for us for the next session as well, for the next course.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Bye bye.